In this video, I am going to show you how you can use Google Trends to get some insight into what might be worth teaching at your dance studio, what people are after, if some things perhaps aren't as popular as they used to be. You might sometimes be running a dance studio and you might find that inquiries are dropping off or something like that, and you might be wondering if it's just part of the cycle, if maybe people just aren't interested in it anymore or something like that. And Google Trends is something you can use to get some insights into that. I use it myself, and certainly that helped me work out some changes I need to make to the way I needed to make to the way I ran my business. So I'm going to show you basically a brief intro just so you can get yourself up and running if you've never heard of Google Trends. And then as you play around with it a bit more, you'll get even better at it. So the first thing we do is we need to get to Google Trends. So if you just type trends into Google, the first thing will come up is Google Trends. And what Google Trends is going to show you is essentially how frequently somebody was searching for a particular term. And if I remember rightly, it starts off with the US, or maybe it's worldwide, I'm not sure, but I'll show you how to change that anyway. So the first thing you might want to do is type in, let's just say, dance lessons. Very, very generic search term. And it has taken us to the United States to start off with. And we'll stick with this for the moment. It might work for you. You might even want to drill down a little bit more. If you pick a particular country, I'll just show you here, you can actually drill down and choose sort of any country that you actually like. We'll just stick with the United States as the default. But once you've chosen it, we'll also highlight states. So you might even choose later on to really drill down to your particular area. At the moment, I'm just going to show you how you can use this. So what we've got here is how frequently people have searched the phrase dance lessons in the past 12 months. Now you might be wondering if there's been a downturn or an increase or something like that over a longer period. We can drop down and we can go to 5 years. And if we take a look at that, we can certainly see one thing we can see there was a cycle there in the past. It seemed to peak maybe January and June. January, a bit of a peak there around June, and then there was another peak here around December, January, and then we got another peak around May, June. So what's interesting here is that historically there have been peaks where people show an interest. So it might mean that in the US at least, people want to learn dance for maybe a New Year's resolution, and then perhaps sort of around sort of the middle, around middle of the year again, perhaps when the weather is good. So that's going to give you some insights for your advertising. However, it does seem as though maybe that trend is not as present. So if you were doing this in the past, you might find now that it's not as valuable. You know, maybe you need to advertise all year round. There has perhaps been a slight drop off, but nothing major. If you want to get an even greater understanding of what the long-term trends have been, you can go from 2004 to the present. And if we take a look at that one, Google's just decided to slow down. I'm going to reload it just to force it to update. I don't know why, but if you're ever using Google Trends and this thing seems to be just giving you a circle, hit reload on the page and it seems to speed things up. Now this is interesting. It would seem that since 2004, when things looked a little bit volatile for a while there has been a steady decline in dance lessons. That could mean that there's been a general reduction in interest in dance, or maybe people are actually getting a little bit more precise about what they want to learn. So let's try ballet lessons. Let's see what happens there. I don't think that's as much of a drop, but there has definitely been a bit of a drop there. So if you were picking up on a certain drop, if you're running a ballet school and you thought there might have been a drop, then this would tell you that there has perhaps been a reduction in interest in ballet lessons. But ballet might not be your thing. Let's just try something else. Let's try salsa lessons. Same thing again, there's been a bit of a reduction. Probably more so actually. Let's just compare that to ballet lessons. So what's interesting here is that salsa historically some time ago was much stronger than ballet lessons, but it's dropped a lot more. So if you were in the ballet space, you probably noticed a reduction, but it hasn't been as extreme as what it has been for salsa. So that's probably giving you some insight as well. If you were running a dance school and you taught a number of different types of dance, then even though there's been an overall reduction, certainly dances like salsa have been hit much harder than ballet. Now that's since 2004, which is a fairly long time ago. You might not want to go back that far. You might just want to go back 5 years. And it does seem to be a little bit more stable in that sense. There have been a few ups and downs, but maybe in the past 5 years, it has been a little bit more stable. You might even think there's been a bit of an upswing there. So once again, if you want to get an idea of what's going on, you can always change the ranges here. So you can go to 12 months, 2004 all the way to the beginning of when Google was tracking this. You can also do a custom time range. So you might actually be interested in the past 10 years. So we can just change this to a 09. So instead of it being from just whatever was chosen up here, we've now specifically gone from 2009 to 2019. Click the OK button. Why is it not letting me do that? Oh, because I've done it the wrong way around. My mistake. Hit OK. And we can see what's been going on for the past 10 years. So it does look as though, there was a trend to, there was a decrease going on for quite some time, but it maybe has stabilized in the last 5 years or something like that. And it does look as though it's perhaps bottomed out. It doesn't seem to be dropping as much. So if you feel as though you can still sort of go okay with the way things are now, then you're okay. It doesn't look as though it's going. It does look as though it's stabilized. However, maybe things aren't going that well, and you'd want to look at diversifying. Something you might, let's say you're teaching ballet. So I'm just going to remove this. If you ever want to remove something, just hit remove. We're just looking at ballet lessons now in the United States for the past 10 years, just to see what the trends are. We might want to diversify, so we might try dance fit. Just a term, assuming people might have typed that in. We'll just see what happens when we choose that. And it's roughly equal to ballet, but it doesn't seem to have had that same drop. It actually looks as though it hasn't dropped as much, or maybe it's even starting to strengthen again. So if you were teaching ballet at the moment and you're looking to diversify, dance fit shows some potential there. If we are looking at that a bit further, we might even try another term. And just we've heard of this thing called Zumba. Let's see what that does for us. That was huge. However, it's certainly dropping off. And even though it's dropping off, though, we can see that there's a cycle. And once again, it looks as though a number of people are still picking up Zumba around January. So that's probably part of those New Year's resolutions, people wanting to lose weight, things like that. So it's dropping off, but it's still a pretty popular search term. So it might be that you do want to do Zumba classes to start consolidating different styles into your studio. As you can see, they're all shrinking, but that probably means we're in a war of attrition, where it's the studios that manage to survive are going to be the ones that will consolidate different styles. So you might think, yep, I'm going to have to get into dance fit, Zumba, as well as ballet. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that specifically. The point of this video was to show you how you can use Google Trends just to get some insights, because sometimes you have a feeling that something's going on. For example, if somebody was a Zumba teacher, they might have felt as though things are getting a bit smaller each year, and they might think, are there competitors out there that are taking my clients? Do people want a different advertising message these days or something? Am I doing something wrong? No, you're not actually. It's just people are less interested, and they're looking elsewhere for whatever it was that Zumba did for them. Let's just get rid of Zumba, and we can probably say something similar to some extent about ballet. It is dropping off. So if you've noticed a reduction, it's not you. People are a little bit less interested. However, dance fit does seem to be something that's a little bit stronger still. So that will give you an idea of whether you need to change the way you're operating, or whether you're changing the way or change what you offer or something like that. So certainly looking at these, if you were running ballet and you thought things have been dropping off, I would be inclined to agree with you, and I would also say you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. I would say that it's just people are less interested, and you might need to look at something else that's going to help you out. Now, you can, of course, do this for any style. You know, you could put in belly dancing in there, contemporary dance, whatever it is that you teach, ballroom dancing, Latin dancing. I would also play around with some of the terms. I'll show you something else here. Let's just get rid of this. So ballet lessons, I just assumed that's what people typed in. Maybe people would type in ballet school. Let's try that one. And that is a lot more popular. Still trending down though, but it is a lot more popular. So what you might actually get from that is you'll say, well, I shouldn't just have the word ballet lessons on my website. Ballet school is something else I should have. Google might actually be smart enough to say, well, you say that you offer ballet lessons, therefore we treat you as a ballet school. But maybe it's worth putting in some of those extra terms somewhere on your website so people know about that. Sticking with the ballet thing, let's try ballet for adults and see what we get. Nothing terribly significant there. It does look as though it might be increasing. So what you can always do is remove. Ballet for adults, maybe there's a bit of an increase there, but there's nothing major. And remember, it wasn't a huge thing compared to ballet in the first place anyway. Let's compare this to, say, ballet for kids. That was interesting. Something dropped off here. Something happened in sort of around about August 2013 when there was a bit of a drop in interest in ballet for kids for some reason. If somebody's in that industry, it would be interesting to know if they've got any thoughts on what happened then. As a general rule, I think it's always worth, when you see these things, to try to work out what actually happened. It won't necessarily give you an advantage or anything, but it might give you extra insights. Yeah, that I find very interesting. Certainly ballet for kids, though, is more popular than ballet for adults. And once again, you know, you might want to type in adult ballet classes or something like that just to see if the search term is different. So that was ballet. Just to give you another idea of what you might be able to do, if we go over it a couple of times, it might make a bit more sense to you. Let's just remove that one. I'm now going to do wedding dance, something that's a little bit more aligned to what my area is. And we see a bit of a cycle there. So there is probably, remember this is in the United States, so it would seem that there is a wedding season as such, or maybe it's when people start thinking about weddings, because note, I've said wedding dance. And I'm going to take this one back a bit further. I always think it's worth going back to the very beginning with anything you're looking at, just to get an idea what's going on. And we see something very interesting here. What we see here is in July 2009, there was a huge spike, wedding dance. Let's compare that to wedding dance lessons. Much smaller, so that's something to consider, whether maybe all these people aren't necessarily looking to learn dance. But there was something very big in 2009 that made people look up wedding dances. And what you can do is, if you open up another window, if we type in wedding dance, and we go to tools, and we look at any time, custom range. If we go back here, that was July 2009, so something happened around then. So I'm going to go from 1 June 2009 to 1 August 2009, and that should give us things that were published on the web within that period. And the first thing that comes up is a JK wedding dance, which I've actually seen before. And if I click on that, we are going to come across a video.
Why don't we start with
well, we'll have to skip the ad here.
Back here.
But that's interesting.
We're going to sort of start with our
98 million views. Okay. Now, I have seen this video before. I remember it now. You've probably seen it as well. It was a choreographed entrance of the bridal party. So I'll just pause that. So this obviously went viral. 98 million people have viewed this video. That would most likely be what's caused this peak that we see here. So that's interesting to know, that if there's ever a viral video going out on a wedding dance or something like that, that's probably a good time to start promoting your wedding dance business. If you ever come across a viral video of any style that you happen to teach, latch onto that, take advantage of it, because it's going to give you a big peak. Maybe you can get a few more students from that. I'm just going to remove this one, because what I'm interested in now is if we saw that same peak in 2009, we didn't actually, yeah. So even though that was interesting, even though a number of people wanted to watch that that video there of a wedding dance, wasn't really a wedding dance in the sense that we would think of it, wasn't a bridal dance as such. It didn't actually make more people think about getting wedding dance lessons. What we can see here, though, once again, is there has been a drop-off. I think you can see here that there's a bit more volatility, but things have dropped off. That was in the United States. Let's compare this to the overall world. If you're operating in a particular country and the trends are different from the rest of the world, I do know people who've closed down a studio in one country and moved to another country and set up a studio there. Just something to think about. But we can see here that there has been a downward trend globally. People just aren't quite as interested in wedding dances as what they used to be. So we've gone over, what are we going to, I think we've gone over a few different styles of dance here, ballet and wedding dance lessons at least. And you've seen me use some of these different features here, type in the different search terms simply by going to Google, trends.google.com. If you go to Google and then type in trends, it'll come up. Start typing in the styles of dance that you teach. I find putting the word lessons or school at the end of it will give you insight into the search patterns for people who are actually interested in learning. And you can see what the trends are. And if your trend is down, start looking for something that's related and might be going up. Or maybe even look for something else that's contracting as well, or not contracting as much, and think about whether you can combine it into what you're doing, because it probably means you've got two dance styles that are starting to shrink, and if you can bring them together, then you'll be one of the dance studios that manages to survive. I hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions, by all means ask, and even if there are particular styles of dance that you'd like me to do a quick Google Trends analysis on, I can quickly do that and just show you another video so you can see how it was done. Thanks for that, and I hope it helped.